Yeah, that's you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Before we start our session, can I just remind you about some of the information shown on this slide? Can you please ensure that your mic is switched off to prevent any background noise? And a reminder that the session is being recorded and will be included on the SLF website. If you're experiencing any technical issues, you can communicate with a couple of our technical experts within the chat function, and you can also use the chat function to ask any questions, make some comments, or also post links, etc. Our session this afternoon is going to focus on the approach taken by one school to developing key employability and 21st century skills, the approaches they took to learning and teaching, and some of the barriers they faced doing this within the traditional national qualification framework. And we'll then look at how, in partnership with the FE sector, they're aiming to overcome these barriers through a different approach to assessment, which involves developing a new Level 6 qualification to support this. I'm joined today by Jack Waghorn, Principal Teacher for Design and Technology at Grove Academy in Dundee, who will outline the approach taken by the school. I'm also joined by Katie Walker and Jacob Schaap, two pupils who have participated in this programme over the last 2 years, who will give their perspective on this approach to learning and teaching. And finally, I'm hoping you will hear from Barry Skee from New College, Lanarkshire. He's been delayed a little bit dealing with staffing issues in the college, and he will outline the work being taken to develop a different approach to assessment that supports the project-based approach taken by the school and how this can be used in different contexts. And at this point, I'll pass over to Jack.
Hi, hello there. My name is Jack Waghorn, as Andy's already told you, and I am the Principal Teacher of Design and Technology in Grove Academy, Dundee. Grove is a school role approaching 1,400 pupils and is viewed in the community as a relatively academic school with pretty strong results. It serves a very affluent area in Dundee, and it's as I said, a fairly affluent school. Within the department, we have always had good relationships with one school, with universities, colleges and industry. I've always liked to make the most of what's on offer from these partners, as they can be sources of really engaging material, as well as helping contextualise theoretical work. As with most of other departments, the main focus of our senior phase has been based around national qualifications. My department traditionally offers a range of national qualifications in a wide variety of subjects. Despite positive results, I was aware that many pupils did not have an opportunity to really develop core skills as well as the wider skills such as problem solving and working collaboratively. Skills that are hugely relevant to engineering. The focus on national qualifications seemed to be on the two-term dash and meeting the requirements of the SQA. And in my opinion, something was missing from what we were offering. My wider vision has been to engage young people fully in their learning. Around 12 years ago, I was asked while I was PT of another school to enter a team in the regional MATE Advanced Technological Education ROV competition. MATE is what we'll call it from now on. MATE are based in the USA and run an annual international competition to design, build and test a remotely operated submersible vehicle. But despite challenges such as workload, I took the plunge and offered this as an extracurricular activity. The competition was growing at the time, and several Scottish schools had competed in the UK regional finals in Aberdeen, which were run by Robert Gordon University. The previous year's winners had been given the chance to compete in the World Championships in the USA, and this had been funded by Robert Gordon University. The competition involves deploying the ROV in a series of underwater tasks that replicate tasks required to be completed at depths that would be impossible or extremely dangerous for divers. I found that this offered pupils a chance to work collaboratively and showcase the innovative thinking of young people to solve relevant real-life industry-based problems. The competition also has an interdisciplinary aspect, as pupils are organising teams to simulate creating a business and ultimately selling the ROV to industry. Competition tasks were undertaken in the swimming pool or deep water pool at Robert Gordon University. These tasks were designed to allow each business to showcase their project in the marketplace. As pupils completed the competition tasks, they were also shown off the capabilities of their vehicle. They also had to compile and complete technical documentation to detail the capabilities and specifications of their ROVs. This also replicated approaches taken in industry. This required a huge amount of collaboration within each team. I continued to enter teams in this competition for many years. In 2011, I entered a team that won the UK Regional Heat and was then given the chance to travel to Texas to compete at NASA Neutral Buoyancy Labs. Watching these young people engage in their own learning was massively rewarding, and not just because of the trip to Texas. These kids were completely hooked. I also felt how good it would be to integrate this experience in the classroom, but the raft of national qualifications we had were largely driven by assessment and didn't really allow for the flexibility that would be needed to embed this approach to learning and teaching. This desire to integrate this experience aligned with the direction being taken at my new school after I moved to Grove Academy. With one of the DHTs, we looked at the design and technology curriculum and agreed that while advanced higher and engineering science had a lot to offer, it was often treated as an add-on with limited importance. Many pupils were picking the subject having already achieved the necessary qualifications for entry to university. In fact, many universities said that significant portions of the advanced higher content were replicated in university in the first year of degree courses. We arranged to meet representatives from several universities and employers to ask their opinion. And what we found was the lack of real-world problem-solving skills and the ability to collaborate, meet deadlines, apply knowledge in different contexts, and communicate effectively were what employers in higher education were looking for. The theoretical nature of the national qualifications in engineering didn't really provide this. Universities were quite frank about lots of engineering students being unprepared and lacking in soft skills, like working in a team, presenting their findings in a real-life context. They went on to say that something with hands-on problem-solving experience would actually be preferable to an advanced hire. Industry had said a similar thing. We spoke with NCR in Dundee, Dyson, and other manufacturing companies, and the same things were being said by them. NCR Dundee had interviewed 30 postgraduate students and failed to appoint any, as they felt they lacked the skills and experiences they were looking for. They were academically qualified, but beyond theoretical knowledge, again, they were unprepared. This was echoed by every employer we met. This gave birth to the Advanced Engineering Programme at Grove. The vision was to develop the MATE competition as the basis of a programme that would give the pupils the opportunity to work on a project that would last the academic year, and then compete in the UK regional finals. The support of the head teacher was vital, given that this offered, at the time, no formal qualification, although we did intend to incorporate the Gold Crest Award. We then added the project to the Senior Course Choice Forum. The response was hugely encouraging. The programme we developed focused on a project-based approach, integrate theoretical knowledge and practical skills. It was designed so that it would allow every participant to lead at least one aspect of the process. At the same time, students would work in teams to replicate the feedback from industry. These teams were led by students taking on team leader posts and project management roles. The management of this was being given completely over to the teams. Overall, the project was centred on creating a business, designing and manufacturing the ROV, and then presenting it to market in the MATE competition. A significant technical report to be written, a marketing display produced, an engineering presentation given to a team of qualified engineers. Product demonstrations were given on predetermined tasks in the water. They all needed to know in detail what they were talking about to respond to the Q&A with industry engineers. Students were leading their own learning and learning through experience. The freedom from restrictive assessment criteria allowed them to explore many different aspects of engineering. Teams were also linking with an industry mentor, which in our case was the NCR facility in Dundee. Through the partnership with NCR, the students regularly engaged with engineers on different aspects of the projects. Email communication was useful, but the use of Teams made it easy for them to communicate face to face. We also visited each other. Throughout lockdown, we continued the programme. Students largely saw it as something they wanted to engage with. Parts for the ROVs were designed, sent out for manufacture, that might have been 3D printing, and delivered to homes and discussed. The dreaded word failure was significant in the whole process. Without it, progress was hindered. When anything failed, the students had to meet and discuss the failure and work out why it had not worked. This, in my opinion, was real-life engineering. This led to what I can only describe as one of the most rewarding years I've been in teaching. The engagement from all of our teams was 100%. something that was noticed very quickly by any teachers that came down to take police takes. We saw a huge motivation and engagement from the pupils. My involvement became more as a facilitator than delivering direct instruction from the front of the class. Teams designed, modified, tested, and redesigned, modified, and retested. Failure was something that we encountered on numerous occasions, and a huge part of their learning was how to deal with that. Soon, failure became an opportunity to improve. The mindset was changing. The need for specialist understanding grew as the project evolved. Knowledge that was not always available at school. I can think of numerous instances where the team hit a brick wall with concepts that were hugely complex. The need and desire for a solution had them seeking out support from industry, universities, college, parents. The list was endless. The key was they recognised this and sought support without immediately putting their hand up and asking the teacher. They were problem solving. The feedback on this project-based real-world approach has been tremendous. Senior engineers in the NCR indicated that our students had better skills than engineering graduates and made commitments to guaranteeing interviews for our students in the future. Finished our review as a product of a team that worked together and followed a business plan. They developed skills out with any normal school-based course. They also learned that answers are there to be found, and the eyes of the teacher was only a part of it. The key to our success was engagement. Engagement came from their desire to succeed. They owned the project. Project-based approach was central to us. The next few years allowed me to cement the advanced engineering programme into the curriculum for growth. Industry partners like NCR became much more involved and were driving us forward. We were extremely successful and won the competition 4 times in 4 years. This has led to students representing the UK at the World Championships in Seattle, Tennessee twice, and this year in Long Beach, California. The experiences gained by students in the World Championships were huge. It's helped shape their futures. Seeing them engage with engineers from the marine world who were grilling them was immensely rewarding for me. They were working with students from all over the world, developing skills. Language barriers were not an issue as they had the common language of engineering. Lifelong friendships were made, and as I said earlier, career choices shaped. We expanded our outreach last year and worked with 2 schools in China. We shared ideas and problems. One of our students even learned Mandarin to help smooth communication. We set up a 3-way Teams call with 2 Chinese schools. The time difference meant our students were in school at 6 AM. We had a working breakfast, and then the students present to each other. The language of engineering was flowing. We're not sitting back thinking, well, that's it working now. We're looking to expand the programme and engage with other schools. We want to build on the relationships with universities, colleges, and industry. We're now looking to engage further with China and other countries. Other schools have indicated the lack of a qualification could be a barrier to replicating our programme. In response, we have been working with New College in Lanarkshire on a qualification that can be attached to the programme, and providing it has no detriment to its structure or approaches to its learning and teaching, so that recognition can be given to a full range of achievements, including technical and soft skills. Shortly, you might hear from Barry at New College. That depends on whether he gets sorted out. But first, I'd like to pass on to 2 of our former pupils so you can hear what you think of their approach to it. The first one you'll hear from is Katie Walker. Katie was a student with us 2 years ago and has since moved on to Dyson, and I think she's working in Bristol or something like that, but she'll tell you a bit more about that. Okay, right, Katie.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. As Jack said, my name is Katie, and I am an undergraduate engineer currently. I left Grove last June, and this after achieving these results and also participating in the advanced engineering programme in 6th year. And as he said, I'm currently on a degree apprenticeship programme with Dyson, and I'm away to move into my 2nd year. That picture there is me on the day of competition with my team, with our finished ROV. My role in the team was CEO, and and that was my team, and I finished RV. So a bit of background on what I do now, just I think it's relevant. I study towards a degree for 2 days of the week, and then I work in a Dyson Global engineering team for 3 days a week, contributing to live projects. So a question I get is, how did my traditional secondary education prepare me? And by traditional, I mean the traditional qualifications, so advanced hires. Very much traditional, learn for the exam, learn out of a textbook. Um, that that is still necessary for me for the degree aspect of my qualification. Exams do make up the majority of my modules and range from about 60 to 80%. Obviously, entry requirements are still a massive thing for school leavers. I needed AA, and I know that this is similar for other degree, graduate kind of apprenticeships, and also for universities. Very theoretical, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's still very important on the degree side of my qualification, and that kind of base knowledge is allowed me to excel in the modules in my degree. And very individual, but this is still important in many bits of the degree. Many courseworks are individual, and obviously the exams, as I said, are individual. This kind of leads you to see that a lot of the stuff that you do in traditional subjects very much kind of shoehorns you towards degree, and it's very degree focused. So the question kind of is what else did I do, and why have I ended up in an apprenticeship and not a degree? And it's all, I would say, down to the advanced engineering project, which Jack has just spoke to you about. So alongside my advanced hires in sixth year, I did the advanced engineering project, and it's completely unique to Grove, and it just allows for a completely different experience compared to the traditional advanced hires. Personally, my soft skills were the most important thing that I developed throughout the program, and it's something that I found to be so important when I've came into the workplace at Dyson. Teamwork is massively, massively important in engineering, and is the soft skill that I've continued to develop throughout my year working so far. Other skills like problem solving, communication, time management have also been extremely useful and something that I started to develop throughout the project. I also found that the independence that you get from the project was highly valuable. So being able to find solutions to problems and without that constant support from a teacher is crucial both in the engineering workplace and in the degree, and is another place where traditional teacher kind of classrooms fail. More technical skills, soldering, breadboarding, CAD, writing technical documentation is something that a lot of people, including me and in my team, had never done before, and is something that we've all taken to be extremely useful. For me, I've used it in the workplace and also in coursework and in university labs, and it's something that I wouldn't have been able to do had I taken another traditional subject. It's also just a really interesting project. It's something that you can speak about in your personal statement. I spoke about it in my interviews, and it's ultimately up to you how interesting you make it and where you decide to take it. And it allows you to develop all the skills that I've talked about kind of subconsciously while you're doing something you really enjoy. So this, to me, shows that the advanced engineering project makes for a much more all-around subject. I've used all the skills I've developed both in the workplace and on the degree side, not just on the degree side like I mentioned with my traditional subjects. So personally, some kind of overall thoughts on why our kind of attitude towards learning qualifications may need to change. So the traditional approach of learning from a textbook to sit an exam and regurgitate that doesn't reflect an engineering workplace at all. It doesn't reflect how I work in my apprenticeship. I'm constantly working with other engineers, senior leaders on projects, and I have access to so many resources to help me complete these tasks. I'm not having to sit closed book and do them. Obviously, the knowledge I gain from the theory and the uni side helps, but there's absolutely no way that I'd be able to remember everything and be able to do all that while trying to complete the tasks as well. Um, After kind of getting in with the entry requirements, which are obviously mandatory, I found that the engineering project, although it didn't actually end up in any sort of formal qualification, there's nothing to say I've done it. It gave me so many valuable experiences that I could talk about on my personal statement and in interviews, and it's ultimately carried me through into my apprenticeship, and I've still been able to speak about it within my year and with other people at Dyson. The group pace aspect of the project is not explored enough in schools. Everything in traditional qualifications is very, very individual. And even now in uni, we do a lot more group coursework and working in a global team as well. I'm very, very rarely working individually. Learning and working with peers and others is obviously like a lifelong skill and is utilised far more than learning and teaching in a classroom sense. So yeah, overall, kind of all around is better. And I'm not saying ditch the theory because I wouldn't be here without my traditional subjects, and it is the base for the degree and for my work. But I just think that integrating more kind of critical thinking, getting the problem solving, and getting teamwork in would allow students to leave school more well-rounded. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Katie. We're going to pass on now to Jacob Sharp. Jacob was the CEO of the team that has just competed in Long Beach, California in the World Championships. Jacob will tell you a bit more about how he feels about it. Jacob?
Hi there, good afternoon everybody. So like Jack just said, my name is Jacob Sharp. I took part in the Advanced Engineering Programme at Grove Academy last year. I was CEO of a team who went to the regional competition and won, and then was lucky enough to go to Long Beach, California to compete in the international competition, which was a fantastic experience. I'm just going to give you a quick run through of sort of a day-to-day, the way we worked sort of every single day, just to give you sort of an idea of how an experience was from somebody who took part in the programme. So the first thing to note is definitely, like Katie said before me, that we worked in teams rather than individually. Now, this was really important as part of the programme, but it was also a point where everybody had to work individually as part of the team, whereas if you didn't put in your individual part, you weren't going to get anything out of the overall experience. So it was definitely, you had to work as part of a team, but you had to work individually to actually get something out of the course. So that was definitely very, very important. The practical application is huge for the Advanced Engineering Programme. There are no textbooks, there are no jotters. You know, you sit there. There's written work that needs to be done, but it's not set. The teacher sits and tells you what to do, like every other traditional subject. It's very much different in that way. I found that as a programme run for 6 years, that there was a slight issue in 6 years sort of across the country where people start getting unconditional offers and the motivation goes down to attend school, which is understandable. But I found that especially with the Advanced Engineering Programme, that motivation never changed. And that was definitely due to the fact that there was competition at the end of the year. We were working towards something. We were very, very driven to keep going and make sure we won the competition. And in the end, that was what happened. So that was definitely something that was very important to me. And definitely independent designs, getting a chance to sort of express yourself, show what you want to do, try new things, not have somebody at the front say, oh, well, this is the way that it's done. You can try for yourself. If you're wrong, we'll have a look, we'll see what way you should do it and why you should, and that definitely broadens your understanding. There's definitely, I would like to speak about some of the differences between sort of a traditional skill subject. So definitely self-sufficient is the first and very key thing I would speak about. When you walk into the Advanced Engineering Programme, there isn't a seating plan. There isn't a jotter to write in. There isn't a set textbook. You sit down, you have a think about what you did the last day, what needs to be done. Everyone knows what they're doing, and we get on with it. There isn't a big lecture. We just go for it. So that is definitely something that is very fulfilling, and it definitely broadens onto, it continues on to the fact that university life. So that's definitely something that's very, very important. Like I said before, with the aspect of the competition, this goes on to the fact that there's no actual written exam, which is sort of the traditional way, which I think it's more important that we actually learn some practical skills rather than just have a basic theory knowledge, which in the end is required 100% because we needed to be able to have that theory in the first place to actually apply the practical skills. But I think that is very important and something that universities definitely look for. Being able to see your own mistakes was a huge thing. Not just being told that the answer is wrong and this is why. You're actually able to see it in front of you. It's not one of those things where something goes wrong and you've been told it's wrong. It's obvious in front of you. It's sinking to the bottom of the pool. It's obvious, and you have to work that out for yourself. And that is a real challenge. It's something that I really enjoyed. And definitely the networking opportunities, like Jack mentioned earlier. We had a call with Chinese school, which was just incredible to see the way that they worked and similarities between the two schools, despite the huge distance. And so after that, some of the skills I learned last year. Obviously, we worked as part of a team all year, so teamwork was very, very, very important. I was CEO, so I had to learn a lot of leadership skills, which was a challenge, but I really, really did enjoy that, and I'll definitely take that on. Marketing is a huge thing. It's something that I'd never really encountered before, but we had to market and sell, have a sellable product in the end. So that was definitely something that we had to face. Presenting, we had to do multiple talks, whether it be at the actual competition itself. We presented to, as I said, the team in China. We presented to engineering firms such as NCR, which was a very, very new experience. But I think that I thoroughly enjoyed it in the end, and got a lot of valuable experience out of that. Time management and working to deadlines. Obviously, we had a deadline for the technical documentation, and we had a deadline for the actual competition itself. So we were always working towards a certain date in the calendar year, which was very, very, very difficult at times, but it also motivated you to keep things going, and definitely sort of improved and quickened the process of the competition. And it's definitely just a new way of learning. It breaks the mold of the traditional way of learning, and we're all gearing up for the end of year exam. It was a nice relief, and definitely something that I enjoyed as part of my 6th year at school. I would just like to speak about some of my personal experiences and sort of feelings on the whole project itself. So I feel that I gained valuable experience. I'm now studying at Glasgow University, studying mechatronics, and I went into a lab today, and the first thing they said was, we're going to do a lift project where you have to design your own lift. And they went into the details of, right, you need to start on the construction and the mechanics, and then move on to the electronic side where you're going to be doing coding on an Arduino. And all I could think about was that advanced engineering program where I had seen all this before. So that was very, very, very useful. As I was already familiarized with all these things. There was a lot of people in that room who hadn't seen any of these things before, but it was definitely an advantage to me, despite not actually doing the advanced higher engineering science course, which a lot of the other ones had. So it's definitely a new way of thinking. Yes, so I would definitely say the communication aspect for me in university has been very, very key. I met a lot of people through the ROV program, whether it be people in my school. We went to the regional competition and we spoke to other teams there. We went internationally and we spoke to schools from a wide variety of countries. So there was quite a few from the US, but from further afield as well. So that was really, really important. But definitely just sort of the practical skills and being able to think on your feet was just massively important for us. Things go wrong every day. Something new is always coming your way, but it's definitely just a very independent course where if something goes wrong, if you're not quite sure on anything, the first thought isn't to turn to your teacher. You have that self-belief inside you that, you know, we can actually sort of fix this ourselves. But anyway, thank you for listening to me. That's been a great experience. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. So you've heard the input from Katie, Jacob and Jack, and hopefully it's given you an idea about the learning and teaching approaches taken as part of this programme at Grove Academy. Some of the themes around approaches to learning, such as project-based approaches and the development of skills, and the impact of assessment approaches have been flagged up in the recent OECD and subsequent Stobart reports. In response, the school has been working with New College over the last year or so to look at developing an approach to assessment that addresses some of these issues so that assessment approaches can support the learning and teaching approaches and not drive it, and also capture skills development. It doesn't look like Barry from New College has been able to join us, so I'll just maybe fill in for him at this point. He did send through some slides earlier on this morning. Also give you a bit of additional background. Before I joined Education Scotland, I was actually the DHT Jack referred to at the school.
Yeah.
We had looked at previously trying to identify a way of capturing and certificating the learning that had taken place. Jack had some interest expressed from other schools in different parts of Scotland about what we were doing. And when they came down, I think they all thought it was a great idea, but when they went back to their schools, one of the things that came back and said, well, there's no qualification attached to it. We did look at going down a particular route with the SQA based on NPAs, but there was it was quite a bureaucratic process. And then just by a completely different route, we came into contact with Barry Ski from New College in Lanarkshire. And as a result of various conversations, and we both agreed on the potential benefits of this type of approach. I think it's a more common way of approaching learning and teaching in the FE sector. And we came upon the idea of, could we develop our own qualification, our own level 6 qualification that would provide the certification, the recognition of achievement, that would also maybe hold some of the pupils in better stead when it came to applying for courses at college and university and so on. And just on that point, and although Katie mentioned about the fact that you're missing out a little bit on that with what we had in place before, we did start to see over the last couple of years some universities coming back and indicating to some of our pupils that they were offering them places on courses as a result of their experience. And in 2 cases in particular, they were offering unconditional offers, even though the students hadn't achieved the minimum entry requirements as yet, because they were waiting on the 6-year results. So what we did was we tried to develop something that supported the learning and teaching approaches, that moved away from the terminal end of year exam, particularly the written exam. And if I just come and share some of Barry's slides with you, and I'll be able to talk through some of these, hopefully.
Just while Andy's getting that together, I mean, one of the things that we had said to Barry and Andy and I discussed is it's absolutely crucial that this didn't impact on the way that the programme was delivered. We wanted to be able to award for what they were doing and not have them work towards a qualification, and that was crucial to it. So that was one of the things that we were really quite clear about.
And it's sort of replicated in some of the points that Barry had put there. That first one there, learning and teaching, as Jack said, had to come first too often, and it's flagged up very much in some of the OECD documentation about the risk of assessment driving learning and teaching approaches as opposed to supporting it. And in a way, what we were doing was reverse engineering to an extent, which was developing something, and then I started looking at what is the assessment approaches. And just thinking back to particularly my early years in teaching, very often the first thing you did before you delivered a new course was look at the assessment arrangements for that. Second aspect there was about knowledge and skills and the importance of skills and how could we capture that skills development as part of the assessment process. And then the third point there was very much about, can we capture this naturally as part of the process as pupils are completing different activities associated with designing, manufacturing and operating the ROV submersible, so that assessment is embedded naturally in the process of learning and teaching. What we have come to the point, we've developed something that we have as the basic framework for a level 6 qualification. What we are sort of concentrating on is something that has a standard, that has some credence within industry and in higher and further education, that supports collaborative working, where there's opportunities for pupils to communicate and to take leadership roles. And one of the things that Jack did when he designed the programme was try to ensure that all the participants within each team had to take a specific leadership role, as well as the overall leadership roles, for example, through team leaders, project managers, and so on. So what we came up with was an approach to assessment that included the technical documentation that pupils would have to complete for the competition. The technical documentations were reflective in the sense that they reflected what went on in industry, what you'd be expected to produce in industry. It was part of the competition, and I think Barry had came up with a term that I think maybe captures what Jacob was outlining about competition-based learning, about the significance of the relevance of it and the competitive nature of it. So we've got one aspect of our proposed new award has been focused on the production of the technical documentation that could be reviewed and would be reviewed in industry by engineers. A second aspect was to try and capture as the course progressed. So a feature of the assessment we're designing is based on a series of logbooks or reports where pupils can reflect and identify their skills and to some extent knowledge development. We were looking at initially some form of assessment that would capture the theoretical knowledge. We came up initially with an idea of some written assessment and then discussed why does it need to be written? Is it something that we can capture through, for example, a presentation, through a question and answer session? Does it develop communication skills if we focus on that as opposed to the written nature of assessment? Can we capture it and ensure that there's a degree of reliability and validity to that assessment approach? Is it something that we could record? So if we did have somebody coming in and verifying what we were doing, there's evidence there for that verification process. And then a key one that I think I'd found from colleagues in FE is about observation, particularly when it came to trying to capture skills development. So for example, aware of sitting in on a session with heating engineers, and the assessment did focus on the observations that were being taken place by the lecturer, noting down how the different candidates were responding to the task and indicating if they had met all the criteria through observation. And I think these types of approaches offer something that's potentially more manageable, more built into the learning and teaching approaches, and move away from that overall external end of session exam. Jack, do you want to say anything at this point?
No, it's just kind of reiterating what I've said. I mean, the most important aspect to this is that the assessment doesn't overtake it. The assessment is done alongside of it. Watching these young people engage in this project, they become completely immersed in it. Good expression, immersed. But if we start to make certain targets for assessment and that they have to complete this, they have to complete that, then it overtakes it. I had said right at the start that I'd rather that we didn't have a qualification attached to it if it hindered what it was doing, because it's already valuable for the people that have been in it. So having recognising what's been done now with the qualification that operates alongside it and doesn't impinge on it is something that's really we're looking for.
So in further conversations with Barry, we thought, can we extend that same model out with just the engineering programme? There are a variety of other similar approaches. So I think it's VEX Robotics and DEX. I think Lego offer a similar thing. But even beyond that, in some conversations we had recently with the NHS, who are hoping to develop pathways to promote recruitment into healthcare. And they were very interested in that sort of project-based model with assessment that captures naturally some of the skills development as well as the theoretical side of things. So what we're hoping is to produce something relatively soon. We've already got initial paperwork submitted that will be more generic in its nature, that could be used in a variety of different contexts, and something that as a result then could capture achievements and hopefully would open up doors, particularly within schools. I was conscious that my head teacher at the time took a big risk in the sense of getting rid of, for want of a better word, to create the space to do that, of an advanced hire that regularly had 15 to 20 pupils achieving advanced hire results for something that initially didn't produce any results, but that could capture that achievement for pupils and also recognise the work of what's going on in the department and in the school. So I come out of this just now and stop sharing, and I think we've got about 5 minutes left, and just wondering if there are any questions. If anyone likes to put anything in the chat, or alternatively, if anyone would like to raise their hand, it could be addressed to Jack, Katie, or Jacob. Not seeing anything at the moment.
One of the things I suppose I'm going to ask a question of Katie, if you don't mind. Katie, you still with us? You talked about your interview with Dyson, and I know I haven't spoken to you before, how crucial this was. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Obviously I can't exactly say about like the interview and stuff just because like confidentiality and things like that, but what I can say is that once I've got to Dyson and stuff, they love hearing about projects that they love hearing about, and I think it'll be the same with most kind of engineering companies and most kind of apprenticeships. They love to see that you've taken initiative and you've gone and done something different. Like, so the thing with like, especially this kind of how competitive this is, everyone's going to have the grades, everyone's going to have that, but it's having the project for me was something that I could talk about that was just a bit different and something that not a lot of people get the opportunity to do in school because they're so focused on their qualifications. So I think have it like Grove allowing you to, instead of taking another traditional subject, taking that project, it gives you the chance to develop those skills that they really want to see, and giving you the opportunity to, as I said, just speak about something that little bit different, and it gives you that edge over people who haven't done something similar.
Thanks, Katie. There's a question there from GC. Is there a bank of project-based learning available?
I think there are approaches. I think Sean has put a question there about, is there a bank of these approaches? I think there are a variety of schools who are adopting similar type of approaches. And in a minute, I'll just put up some email addresses. So if you want to sort of find out more, and we could get that to you, just contact. Actually, I'll put this up just now for you. Included in it is Barry's email address. He would be able to provide some extra information. New College Lanarkshire are an awarding body themselves. So one of the options is that the level 6 qualification, so within the SEQF framework, would be accredited by New College, but we're also looking at an option. You might be aware of the Daydream Leaders qualification in critical thinking. I think that's accredited by Edinburgh Napier University. So we've got different routes for accreditation, and we're hoping that we'll have something finalised and accredited towards the end of this year.
Sorry, and the slide's not up, or I'm not seeing it. So.
All right, okay.
So that's about close to the end.
Right, is the slide come up yet? No. It's come up on my screen. Hold on a second. I shall double check. Technology at best.
Well, maybe it's failure. We can work on that.
Hold on. I think I've got the solution. Is that up now?
Yep.
Oops. I'll go. So if you would like any more information, there's some of the email addresses down at the bottom of the screen. And I think that probably takes us almost up to the end of the session.
To the end.
End of the session, unless there's anyone who has any last minute questions.
Can I just take the opportunity to thank Katie and Jacob, who've taken a lot of time out of their day to do this. Really appreciate it.
And as well as thanking Katie and Jacob, Katie's taken time off from work. Jacob had to rush down from finishing a lecture at 1 o'clock. I can also say a big thank you to Jack for his input outlining the work that's been going on to get to this position today. And as I said earlier, if you'd like any further information, then please feel free to contact any of us on the email addresses at the foot of the slide. And I hope that you found that an informative and interesting outline of the experience that Grove has had. And I hope you all enjoyed the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.